Welcome to the To Your Health podcast, your go to source for everything health, wellness, fitness, and the latest in medical insights. I'm your host, Rhonda Alfred, and I'm joined today by two board certified neurologists, Dr. Tiffany Eady and Dr. Tyler Simons. Both are neurologists at Terrebonne General Neurology Care. We're joined now by Dr. Tiffany Eady. Welcome to the show, Dr. Eady.
Thank you so much for having me, Rhonda.
Well, let's get started with you telling us a little bit more about yourself, your board certifications. I understand you have three of them, and your role at Terrebonne General.
Yeah, so I'm a neurologist. That means I study the brain, spinal cord, and peripheral nerves. I have extra training in seizure disorders, so I'm a seizure doctor or an epileptologist. In order to be an epileptologist, you need to not only go through residency in neurology, but you get extra training to treat people with seizure disorders. In addition, I am able to read EEG, which means we can put EEGs on patients and I can read brain waves.
Okay, so that's very important, I'm sure, when diagnosing.
It's very important, and it provides so much information because you can really see someone's brain health, and often their brain health is something that really isn't reflected on what they look like on the outside. So you can put on an EEG and you can see how they're doing from a total health perspective.
Okay, gives you a lot more insight. Why did you decide to specialize in neurology?
I have been incredibly interested in the mind, autonomy, personal identity ever since I was a small girl. And then when I got to college, I realized that I could specialize in neuroscience. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I could be a doctor. So I went ahead and got a PhD in neuroscience. And then on top of that, went to residency and learned how to be a neurologist. And I think understanding how the mind works is a way to understand and live life and gives you a perspective because not only do you see everything through the mind, but having the proper mind health can really spill over into all aspects of your life.
Is proper mind health something you can develop?
Sure. So, not only is there the perspective of understanding that your mind is and your cognitive well-being is based on all sorts of things. There's things to control like your blood sugar and your blood pressure, but there's also staying in a calm, relaxed mode so that you can really take the world in. And then once you are able to take the world in, you can turn around and use that information to make the world better.
And I understand that you're epilepsy certified. Can you tell us what that means for our patients?
That means that if any patient who has episodes and they don't know what they are, sometimes it's epileptic seizures, sometimes it's stress response, sometimes it's cardiac in nature. And often my patients don't actually care what's causing the problem. They just want it to stop because it causes all sorts of disruptive episodes and it really makes their life hard. It makes them so they can't drive. It can affect your ability to get a job. And so they come to me and we talk about what's going on, when it happens, and how do we make it stop. And depending on what it is it will define the treatment path. And in order to really definitively understand it, I can use an EEG and capture it. And once I capture it, then we can go ahead and do what needs to be done to make those episodes stop.
So, what are some of the common symptoms that someone would have that they would have to see an epilepsy specialist?
Usually, it's patients who have episodes that are out of control and they can't control them. They are relying on their family. They're unable to drive. They're unable to hold a job, all because of these things that are really feel out of control. So, together, I like to work with my patients to restore autonomy so that they get back in control. They're the ones that know when it's coming and take steps to prevent it. And there are a lot of we have studies and we have knowledge on how to make these episodes stop depending on what they are. And so working together, it's a really great field because people, when they get the treatment they need, they can go on and have really fulfilling lives. They can drive, they can work, they can have families. And so it's wonderful to see somebody stabilize out after you've given them the treatment they need and then have a successful life after that.
So, how does stress, sleep, and overall health impact epilepsy?
So I would say that getting high quality restorative sleep is probably the most important aspect of seizure control in my patients. People don't realize that 10% of people have had a seizure sometime in their life. If you think about that, imagine being in a big auditorium. 10% of those people have had a seizure, 1 to 2% have epilepsy. The thing about seizures is that for the vast majority of time, your brain is not seizing and it has its own mechanisms to prevent seizure. And one of the best ways to boost the brain's ability to prevent seizure is to give it the sleep it needs. We live in a culture where we have a lot to do and we often sacrifice sleep at the cost of mood and health and relationships and seizure control. So, one of the things that I'm often encouraging is pick a bedtime, stick with it, let your body sleep, let your mind rest. And that, in and of itself, will provide seizure control even without my medications.
Well, that is some great advice. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, providing this helpful information, and we certainly welcome you aboard.
Oh, it's wonderful to be here. I'm so thankful to get this opportunity.
I'm now joined by Dr. Tyler Simons from Terrebonne General Neurology Care. Welcome to the show, Dr. Simons.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, let's get started with you telling us a little bit more about yourself, your board certifications and specializations, and your role at Terrebonne General.
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Dr. Tyler Simons. I am born and raised from Louisiana. I grew up in Metairie. And for most of my education, I stayed here in New Orleans. And so went to college at Tulane University, studied neuroscience, and then went to LSU downtown for med school. And over the last 5 years, I've been kind of traveling. Went to Miami for residency, and then went to Houston to subspecialize in vascular neurology. And so now I'm a board certified neurologist, and specifically I have a clinical focus in vascular neurology, and that's kind of like where my heart is.
And what brought you to Terrebonne General?
I always wanted to come back home. You know, it's funny, you speak to people here in Houma, and they're like, oh, Metairie is far away, but come back to Louisiana to take care of my community. And so this was a great opportunity to fill a need and to build something great.
Why did you choose to specialize in neurology?
I actually loved neuroscience for many years, and I think the brain always inspired me. Unlike any other organ, the brain can take chemical, electrical signals and make our abstract reality. And so our happiness, our memories, and so that always kind of really inspired me. It was something fascinating. Yeah.
And what are some of the most common conditions or symptoms that you see in your practice?
In my practice, our neurology department sees the full breadth of neurological conditions. And I would say the most common actually is dementia or cognitive impairment. We see a lot of neuropathies, radiculopathies, and of course, I see plenty of strokes and epilepsy as well.
And can you tell us more about your specialty of vascular neurology? Tell
Yeah.
us what that entails.
So vascular neurology is basically a subspecialty within neurology, and it just means that I went through extra training to be able to manage and treat full cerebrovascular conditions. So that includes ischemic, hemorrhagic strokes, arteriovenous malformations, dissections, and it just means I have an extra focus and expertise in this area.
Yeah, we have a huge cardiovascular program, so it fits right in along those lines.
Definitely.
What conditions do you most treat with this subspecialty?
By and large, the most common causes of strokes would be ischemic strokes, whether it's coming from the heart, if a patient has atrial fibrillation, or from plaque buildup in the carotid arteries. But I would say ischemic strokes are the most common. They say about every 40 seconds, someone has a stroke in the United States. So
Those are some alarming statistics.
yeah.
What causes this?
It's a combination of lifestyle. Of course, there's some genetic factors as well, but lifestyle and just like aging over time, you can have a lot of these issues.
How does vascular health affect your overall health?
Vascular health really just protects your blood vessels. And although, I like to focus on the ones in the brain, they go everywhere. And so the same control of blood pressure and cholesterol and your sugar levels, that will protect not only the blood vessels in your brain, but also in your heart to prevent things like a heart attack, the ones that lead to your kidneys, to keep your kidneys healthy long term. And
Mhm.
so really it just helps your overall health.
How can people prevent stroke by being more healthy?
Things we like to focus on would be lifestyle, modifiable lifestyle risk factors. So definitely staying away from tobacco use and smoking,
Mhm.
making sure your blood pressure is controlled in regards to also diet. There's a couple different dietary regimens we have. One's called the Mediterranean diet that you can stick to, lots
Mhm.
of leafy greens and protein. And then also just staying active, making sure you have a regular exercise routine, even something simple as 30 minutes of walking a couple times throughout the week.
Yep. Easy things to do.
Yeah.
At least it sounds easy, right?
And it make a big impact. So
They sure do.
yeah.
What are some of the latest advancements in stroke care?
Stroke is an evolving field and super exciting times.
Mhm.
There's kind of two mainstay treatment options for stroke, either a medical treatment or a physical mechanical treatment. And I would say some of the big advances is that we've had improvements in both. We now have medicines that can break up a clot that's more specific for the clot itself. And now we have all these surgical options where we can physically go and remove the clot within the tiny arteries in the brain. And we can do that up to 24 hours from the time that the symptoms start.
So
So
timing is very important.
they say time
Correct.
is brain. And so as soon as you have symptoms that are concerning for a stroke, it's important to call 911 and be evaluated immediately.
When does rehab play a part in stroke recovery, and how does it play a role in stroke recovery?
We focus a lot on the acute treatment, but that's just a small part of the care for stroke. The long road is the rehabilitation road, and it's super important. And so they need to work with a physical, occupational speech therapist,
Mm.
and this is where really strokes are healed over time. Mhm.
How can one keep their brain and nervous system healthy?
Yeah, so the same kind of things you would do for vascular health, I would say are very similar to brain health. And now is a more than ever is a brain health initiative. And so sticking to physical exercise, great nutrition, and also challenging yourself, cognitive challenge, social challenge, and making sure you come see us in the clinic to make sure your factors are well managed. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to close on that note. Thank you for joining us today.
It's my
We
pleasure.
enjoyed learning more about you and the stroke specialty you have.
Thank you so much.
For more information about Terrebonne General Neurology Care, visit tghealthsystem.com. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast where you get your podcasts. Thanks for joining us.